Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming an actor who starred in two 80s teen cult classics, Beau Dremann. He was in The Heavenly Kid, My Science Project, two movies that are celebrating their 35th anniversary. He was also in Quarterback Princess. He was in Book of Love. He guest starred on many shows like Highway to Heaven and the Twilight Zone reboot. He was in The Uninvited with a couple other guests of mine, Graydon Clark, Tony Hudson, and Sherry Shattuck. And we are going to chronicle his journey today, and it's going to be great. I can't wait. Beau Dreman was such a good bad guy in The Heavenly Kid. He was just so sleazy and bad in that role, and I can't wait to talk to him about it. So here is my interview with Beau Dreman. Hey, Beau.
Yes.
Welcome to.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. Welcome to the show. How are you today, sir?
Excellent.
Nice.
What's funny is I didn't recognize that page, so I somehow landed on it, and I was lucky enough to see your message, because I didn't really know that page existed. So it was good timing that I found it on the day that I did.
Yeah, a lot of people sometimes it's like maybe a year, maybe 2 years before people finally get back to me, you know. But
I can imagine. I'm sorry about that.
that's all right. But this is such a great honor. Thank you for taking the time this morning.
Oh, my pleasure. What a treat.
So, going back in time, did you start gravitating toward acting early on in your childhood?
I did. When I was in middle school age, I decided that that's what I wanted to do. I had been, I was a huge fan of film already, and had, tons of favorite television shows. But I went to my parents and I told them I wanted to start taking acting classes. And I was living in, I was living in Freehold, New Jersey, which is exactly 1 hour out of Manhattan. And I found a 3-month course at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Manhattan. And that's where my journey began. I went up there with my stepfather and auditioned, and was accepted into it's a 12-week program, and that's really what happened, because I had already wanted. I knew that's what I wanted to do, and that's where it started in Manhattan. But I ended up coming out to LA when I was 15. I had this thought when I was in Manhattan that that's where I was going to live, and I wanted to pursue my career there. But I was really interested in film, not so much theater at the time. At a young age, what inspired me was film and television, as opposed to theater. It wasn't until later when I did theater that I realized the joy of it and the actual, the essence of what you're learning and doing in the acting craft,
Yeah. Did any of your classmates in those acting classes go on to become successful?
In that class, I can't recall anyone, to be quite honest. I was 13, and most of the kids in that first group were all in high school, so I didn't really. And then after the 12 weeks, I kind of, I went back. I was in New Jersey, and they were all in New York, and just didn't pursue, keeping in touch. So I can't recall. I mean, that's a good question. Out of that original group, I did study in a particular class with a particular teacher, that there were quite a few famous people that came out of it. And that's where I really, it was a great school, a great teacher and her husband, and that's where I really honed my craft, because I was, it was a very intensive school, and I was there for about 3 years, 4 days a week, and there were several. Jason Gedrick, actually, from the Heavenly Kid, and I were in the same class.
Oh.
which was really neat, because we were friends in class, and we were both auditioning, and we were studying together, doing scenes together, and then he booked the Heavenly Kid, and I went in and read for it too, and then I read for the role of the angel. When my initial audition of Lewis Smith's character, and then of course I already had an offer out, I think, at the time, and so they liked my reading enough to bring me down and cast me as McIntyre, because Nancy Vallon, Stephen Gregory, they were I believe they were at the time local hires. I'm not sure. But they were cast on the East Coast, where we shot in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, I've talked to Nancy. I think she was local, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and I think it's fun. I just recently reconnected with Nancy about a year and a half ago on Facebook, so that's been fun.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we worked together on the film, and then she came out to California, and it's interesting, and I had no idea that some of the work that she had done over the years too, which is kind of cool, and I kind of discovered her career being on Facebook and reconnecting with her, so that was kind of neat too.
Yeah. To backtrack a little bit, though, you had made your debut in Quarterback Princess?
Yes, my first project. Actually, the first project that got me in this union was a Sure deodorant commercial. But about a month later, I booked Quarterback, and that was, I have a major affinity for that, and I still consider it one of my, it was my first job. Great cast, Helen Hunt, Tim Robbins. I mean, it
Don
was
Murray.
Don Murray. Yeah, Don Murray was wonderful. Barbara Babcock. It was great. And John Stockwell. He went off to direct quite a few successful films. So yeah, it was, my gosh, stepping stone. Daphne Zuniga.
Yep.
For a lot of people, and I was really fortunate and grateful for that. I actually read for the John Stockwell role, and then the director, Noel Black had me come in and read for the character I eventually got, and then B.J. Kane, and then he brought me to Network for the role, and Network, being Network and me not having any credits at the time, I don't think they felt comfortable. And so what they did was they brought me in, and he worked with me privately for about 2 hours, and then we went back up, and I auditioned for Network again, and they eventually gave me the role, which turned out to, really, it started everything for me. And so grateful for that. And to have the director fight for me, that meant that I was on the right path.
Absolutely. And another guest of mine, Kathleen Wilhoit, was in the movie too.
Oh, I love Kathleen. That's awesome. She did this. Great. That's great.
Yeah, I think so. Her and Nancy were like one of my probably top 10, top 15 early guest. I think I interviewed them like a week apart from each other or something like that too.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah, Kathleen, she's great. What a talent.
Oh yeah.
She's a great singer too, boy. Whew.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun to talk to.
Yeah, she's a hoot.
She's a character. Yeah.
Yeah, I really adore her. I think she's terrific.
Yeah, they played this movie a lot on cable once Helen Hunt became a huge star in the 90s.
Yeah, I remember that. It's funny because, I came across some, I got a VHS to DVD burner so that I could burn my old, tapes that I recorded on VHS, and one of them I found, Quarterback Princess, and I was like, oh, excellent, I can burn this.
Yeah. Yeah. So with The Heavenly Kid, yeah, that's a very important movie to me since I was a little kid. There's always been a little spiritual connection there. I have an uncle who died about 5 years before I was born. He was my dad's brother, and my mom was very close with him. And she used to go through the yearbooks and look at his picture, much like Jane Kasmerick does with Bobby in the movie. And I had a car accident 5 years ago, and she strongly believes he was my guardian angel through the whole process. I always thought that McIntyre would have made a great mafia henchman because he takes the initiative to speak on Gallows' behalf and be a leading bully, even though he's his sidekick.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's what was fun about that role, actually.
Yeah,
go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, what was in the script that you brought to the character, or that you didn't bring to the character, I should say.
I don't know. I kind of, I did a lot of that. You know what I mean? A lot of, I have some roles where I was the sidekick a lot. So I was always thinking, okay, where's the humor in this guy? Because that's where there's got to, I got to figure out how I can be, this bully jerk and find humor, because that to me was really important, because it made it's real, especially the kid, the cafeteria scene. He just was so tough, but he was such a goober, in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
And I thought that was important to me. But I also wanted to be, terrifying at the same time. So that, it was fun. It was fun. And Jason and I had worked together already in class, so we had this really nice thing going where we could really play with it. We trusted each other, and that was really helpful too, because we would sit and talk on our days off, and we would literally just sit there, two young guys who just everything in front of us, and working on this movie in Florida, staying at a great hotel, and we'd play tennis on our days off, and then we'd sit and just talk about how we saw the movie, what we saw, how we saw it happening for us, and everything like that. And unfortunately, it opened against Back to the Future on the same day. And
yeah,
I don't know if you recall that. I'm sure you do. And it got buried because of that. But what's been great about it over the years is people like yourself that have come to me, when they know that I've been in it, and they say things like, "Gosh, I love that movie when I was a kid," or "I love that movie. I've seen that movie so many times." And I think, like you said, it was on some level in the, back when Blockbuster Video and all that was around. I think that it found its audience, through rental. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I love that. I love that that's what happened to it, and I love that it's got this cult status. It's just fun.
I have a tape. Back in the late 80s, HBO used to do this thing where they would show two movies that were similar to each other on a Friday night. I had Back to the Future and Heavenly Kid. I still have the tape. Unfortunately, Heavenly Kid did not survive. We ended up taping it over. But I wanted to know for the longest time what night that was, and I found out on YouTube a couple of years ago that it was Friday, April 24th, 1987.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. How did you find that? That's so cool.
I like to watch old HBO promos, and that one happened to be there. I was like, yes, finally, I know what day it was.
That's awesome. And I love that, oh my gosh, 35 years when you said that. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah. That hilarious cafeteria scene when Bobby grabs McIntyre's foot and throws him into the cake. That was so damn hilarious. Did you guys have to do a lot of takes of that?
You know what? They had a stunt guy do the initial thing. Right?
Of course,
right?
Mm-hmm.
But then what we had to do is I had to get on the cart,
mm-hmm.
and what I did was is I got way up into a push-up, and then I just let go and fell face first into the the machine, all that stuff, and we got it pretty quickly. I think the stunt guy did a really good job, so thankfully it wasn't a lot of takes. I think it was a couple takes because of the technical stuff, like with the cart moving properly. I don't
Yeah.
But it was I I had mashed potatoes and all kinds of funky stuff in my face for a while.
Yeah.
Cake, I mean.
How was working with Carrie Medaway, the director?
He was great, and I lost touch with him, unfortunately. I really liked him. And it was he kept the set kind of loose and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, we all thought doing the movie that it was gonna do well. It was such a fun script.
Yeah.
We all thought it was just gonna do great. While we were filming, and I think maybe had it not opened on that same day, who knows? You never know. But it's just Back to the Future is such an iconic, trilogy, and it was just buried everybody in its path that year. I mean, it just crushed everything.
1985 was a big sci-fi summer. Another cult classic you did that year, My Science Project, came out at the same time.
Yeah, and that was great. I got to work with Dennis Hopper and meet him. And then, but my big good scene didn't make the film. So, but I was a part of it, which was awesome. Once again, working with John and Fisher Stevens was terrific, and
Daniel von Zernick.
Yeah, he was good, and Dennis Hopper. I got to tell you, man, what a treat! Because we were sitting around. It's always that you're on the set with iconic actors like himself, where you're sitting around, and then you can't even talk. You're just in awe of listening to his stories.
Yeah,
and that was a treat because he was such a big personality,
yeah,
and unique, and it just so that was a treat, and that was another fun movie that actually that one did pretty good, didn't it? Financially in the box office, I can't recall.
It actually didn't, but it became a big home video rental.
I couldn't remember about that one.
But it's brilliant, though, at the end of the movie, after everything's been done, Dennis Hopper turns back to his Easy Rider character.
That's right.
It's brilliant.
Oh, man.
Jonathan Butel, he was coming off of The Last Starfighter. He wrote that movie.
Yes, and that's what got me in that movie, I think, because I read for The Last Starfighter for the lead that Lance got, and I read for that. God, I went back 4 times. I mean, I thought I had a shot at it. I was disappointed at the point. I remember from that. And then, then I read for my science project, and I think that maybe that's what helped get me the role, was the fact that I read so many times on The Last Starfighter. God, I wanted that one.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
I love that. What? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I talked to a few people from that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, gosh, off the tip of my tongue, why can't I think of the actor who played the alien?
Dan O'Harely.
Yeah. And wasn't the guy who came down to Earth, what was his name?
Robert Preston.
There you go. That's the guy. I was like, and he was in it, and I was like, oh man, that would have been so much fun to work with him.
Yeah. Do you remember guest starring on Highway to Heaven?
I do, and we actually, it's kind of ironic that you mentioned that, because that was one of the tapes that I just made a copy of.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of my favorite experiences of that time. Working with Michael Landon was such a treat, I have to tell you. He was wonderful, and Victor French was, I mean, once again, hanging around between takes, talking to those guys and just listening. It was wonderful. And the other interesting thing about that show, which you can say is, art imitates life.
Yeah.
Or life imitates art. I went to my son was born with birth defects, and one of them was his heart, and he had to have open heart surgery a couple times, and we went to a camp that was very similar to the camp in that show for cancer kids. And we went with my son 4 years ago to a place called Camp Taylor, and it reminded me of working on that show when I was there, and what a great treat that was.
Nice. Yeah, I think it was a very underappreciated show compared to a lot of the other shows that Michael Landon did, like Bonanza and Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And they're all, the thing about him was he was so family oriented. And, and all that stuff, like Little House on the Prairie. I mean, he was like that, even though it was a different time. He just had that sense of his crew were family, and it felt like that being on the set, and you can just see that about him. And he was lovely. Lovely.
Then you did a star-studded episode of the Twilight Zone reboot.
Yes, Grant Heslop, who is now a very wealthy man.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
Yeah, that was fun. And the director, wasn't the director, she won, was it her that won the Academy Award for her short film, or was it the director of Hill Street Blues episode I did? I just trying to think. I don't have my Not sure. But, yeah, that was a terrific episode to work on. It's fun. And I wasn't a bully.
You got the odd there with Gene Barry and, Paul Sand, Gina Gershon, Heather Haas. I wonder whatever happened to her. And Wally Langham, who's gone on to have a successful career.
Yeah. And Gina Gershon, we actually went to high school together.
Really?
Yeah. She was a year ahead of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a good actress.
Mm-hmm. She's had a nice career.
Yeah, I remember she was in Showgirls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Notorious Disaster.
Yeah. That has also become cult, hasn't it?
It has.
Cult classic.
It has. Yeah, it's a notorious cult classic.
I saw an article on with I'm so terrible with names right now, with the lead actress.
Oh, Elizabeth Berkley.
Elizabeth Berkley, yeah. I saw an article recently about how the show, and I mean, that movie has become such a cult sensation over the years.
Mm-hmm. I just recently had Graydon Clark on, and we talked about Uninvited.
Really?
Yeah.
What's he been doing?
He's been retired. He wrote his memoir about 7 years ago, and he does interviews whenever he's asked, and he doesn't mind talking about his career as long as you read his book first.
That's great.
But
what did he have to say about Uninvited?
He's a great guy. He said, it was a movie that he believed in and that he wanted to do. He didn't have much to say about it like he had with his earlier films, though. But I've also talked to Sherry Shattuck and Tony Hudson about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was when I booked it and got cast. It was supposed to be shot in Jamaica for 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got word it was going to be shot in Malta. And then once the production started up, it turned out we shot in San Pedro for 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost 2 weeks, and I didn't get to go to Jamaica. But that was fun. It was fun. Graydon was an interesting guy, but it was fun. We were on this great old yacht, and it was massive, and it was something that was probably built in the 50s.
Right.
But we were on the boat all day long, just throwing back and forth, sort of facing out towards Catalina. Everything shot in that direction. But every day we were on that boat, and it's just, it doesn't matter. Being at sea is fun. And George Kennedy, are you kidding me? One of the, I always, as a kid growing up and becoming an actor, I always had affinity for character actors, which is why my career actually ended in that direction.
Yeah.
And George Kennedy, I remember sitting around watching movies with him with my dad, and my dad loved him and thought he was great,
Oh, yeah.
And so getting to work with him on that, my God, what a, I just, you think about all the stuff he had done, like one of my favorite movies was Thunderbolt and Lightfoot with him, and he just did so much good stuff, and that was fun to sit around once again on the set between takes and chat with this guy, this icon that's been around for years, and I was fortunate in some of my early jobs to work with some really classic guys. like the pilot for Glitter.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Cooper.
Oh yeah.
Directing the episode, and it was just sitting around. Oh God, I can't even tell you how excited I was working with those guys back then.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Tony sent me a on-set picture of her and George Kennedy going over their lines.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool picture. Yeah.
Oh, and have you interviewed Claire Perry at all?
No, I haven't even reached out to her. I should.
Yeah, she's done very well, and she was the girl that I was, hooking up with.
Yeah. How about working with Clu Gulager?
Very cool. Another guy that you think back at, early '70s, mid '70s television.
Yeah, I've heard he's a character.
Yeah, really interesting guy. And just the amount of different roles he's done, and he was cool. I enjoyed working with him too.
Mm-hmm.
Just and let's see the gentleman who played George Kennedy's boss.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I don't have IMDb up in front of me right now.
Yeah. Let's see. So, Uninvited.
Mm-hmm.
What did he say about the movie? Like in terms of, in his opinion, of what happened that might have.
I think it was something about like the distribution that he had a disagreement with them, something like that.
Oh, I see. Alex Cord is the guy I was looking at.
Alex Cord, yes.
He was another really popular television actor of the '70s, as I recall, going into the '80s.
I remember Alex Cord. Yeah, he was in a lot of stuff. Do you remember guest starring on Married with Children?
One of my favorite things ever.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things ever.
One of the funniest shows ever. Yeah.
I love that episode. And it's interesting. I did two characters that were very similar.
Mm-hmm.
With Married with Children and Silver Spoons. They were very similar characters, which were a lot of fun to play. But what made it fun is playing opposite Ed O'Neill.
Mm-hmm.
He was not only genuinely a nice man,
Mm-hmm.
he was just hilarious to be around,
Yeah.
and to work with. And, the days in that, in the rehearsals, very giving, no attitude, because I have to be honest with you, I've done a lot of episodics over the years, and sometimes, if you're not a guest star, sometimes, you're not really treated the same.
Yeah.
And you come in and, the act, you come in and you do your job, but you don't always, necessarily get a lot of the attention. Unless you're the guest star, then you get a lot of attention. So I've worked with, I've experienced both. And for the most part, I've experienced really good, positive feelings over the years of experiences working on episodics. There's only been one or two that, I have a negative feeling about. But most of the time. And Married with Children was just one of those episodes that was just, you know, just great. I mean, everything about it. The cast.
Yeah.
Just everyone was terrific. The director, he was great.
Jerry Cohen?
Yeah, he was hilarious to work with. He was just right there in it with everybody. And, you know, that's the thing that's cool about sitcoms is, you know, generally you get one director and the directors for the season as opposed to episodics, where sometimes you'll get, you know, several directors on the season, but sitcoms you're getting, you know, they're like family, you know, the director and the cast.
Yeah.
And that was one of those great experiences. You know, I played high school until I was 26.
Yeah.
And I was working on Married with Children. I think I was 25 or 24, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, I probably shouldn't say this, but we were all laughing about age and everything. And Ed O'Neill goes, "Well, you want to play older?" And I said, "Well, you know, I'm playing high school. I'm still playing high school." He goes, "Start drinking heavy."
That's not bad. The joke I'm talking about, not the actual doing.
I know, but it was funny. It was funny.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Never forget that because you know.
Yeah. How about Book of Love?
Now, this movie was, how do I describe it? Like, just, it was so fun, but I never knew if I was doing something the way the director wanted it. He would always tell me during my takes, you know, meaner.
Yeah.
Meaner. And I didn't know I wasn't, you know, and I couldn't tell why I, you know. And then when the movie, you know, we did the premiere, and another film that released and then got buried because of other films. I forget which one it went up against. But after the premiere, you know, he came up to me and he said, "You know what? I have to tell you, I struggled with what you were doing on the set, but I really, now I see why you were doing that, and you were, you know, I'm really happy with what you did." And that made my whole, you know, that was just awesome to hear that, you know, after what I thought was I struggled with on the set, you know. And but I enjoyed it. I got to ride motorcycles and drive cool cars. It was the 50s. I'm still, you know, I still keep in touch with Trisha Lee Fisher pretty regularly. I love to see Keith on Facebook. He's constantly, you know, promoting, you know, films that he did back in the day, you know. So, you know, what do you think of Book of Love? What's your opinion on it?
I saw it a long time ago. I thought it was okay. It was your standard New Line movie from that era. You know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, the problem was it didn't know what it wanted to be, whether a PG or an R. And it wanted to be an R, but the powers that be wanted, you know, it to be released, you know.
Yeah.
PG-13. So, you know, who knows?
Who knows?
You know, whether it would have been, but I get people that reach out to me that really love the movie, or like they love. I get a guy that that is an actor from my area where I grew up by, and he reached out to me and said, "Yeah, that was one of my Andrew Uncle Booch, one of my favorite characters," and Booch was really cool, and he's an actor. So that was kind of neat to see someone that grew up in my area and then happened to see something that I did, because I didn't know how many people actually saw Book of Love, to be quite honest. And Bob Shea, he was an interesting guy. The interesting thing about him was he had two personalities almost, like, because he was so sweet and kind, but also he used to running a studio, so he didn't, he didn't like it when someone told him to,
yeah, tell him what
told
to do.
him to do something.
Yeah. I talked to Danny Nucci's wife, Paula Marshall, just recently, and she's full of sarcasm. She's hilarious. Especially on Twitter, when she's posting something political, she's hilarious.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Danny, he's done well. I like Danny. Good actor.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to get Keith and Chris. I guess they're both busy, but fingers crossed on that.
I hope you get them. Yeah, and Chris is doing some really cool stuff with VR. He got into editing and all that kind of stuff after acting. Now he's like been working on VR stuff, I think, with Nickelodeon. It's pretty cool, the stuff he's doing. It's really, really neat.
I've talked to a couple guys who went from acting to editing and stuff, so that'd be an interesting conversation.
I think the VR stuff is really neat. I think he's really into it, so that would be an interesting to hear. I think definitely the stuff that he's doing. And Keith, like I said, he travels all over the country for the babysitter.
Adventures in Babysitting. Yeah.
Yeah, the Adventures in Babysitting. He gets a lot of, he goes to Comic Cons or things like that all the time.
Oh yeah.
Pretty neat.
And he also did Under the Boardwalk, which also had Danielle Von Zernick, and he also did Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Right.
He's had a good career.
Yeah. And he's a happy guy. I like seeing his posts. He's so happy all the time. He and his wife, they're so cute. Yeah. He's always smiling.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot,
Yeah.
The time that we live in, and he smiles constantly. I love that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Do you have a For the Boy story?
I do. I have a great For the Boy story.
Okay.
Well, the first being, I was a big Bette Midler fan after seeing The Rose.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I thought, wow, this one, she was a wackadoodle, but, I was a big fan of hers. So working with her on that was tremendous. It was tremendous, right?
Right.
Here I get to work, and then Mark Rydell. Are you kidding me? And I got to work with him, and I knew his son Chris, and so that was cool. Hey, I'm friends with his son Chris, and here I'm working with Mark Rydell, who happens to be, this great, one of the, another icon in the business. And but the best story was after I worked one day, and it was a great day. I came in, I was the soldier delivering what, everybody's worried about, from World War II. If a soldier shows up at your door, you're going to get bad news. So it was a wonderful shoot. Everybody was great. But Fiddler was a little, I didn't really get to talk to her very much, but it was fun to watch her sing and everything. But to get to the great story, Melissa Manchester was one of the trio in her singing group, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, we were all leaving. Get done, released, and Melissa Manchester's dressing room was next to mine in the Honey Wagon. And I'm sitting there changing, and all of a sudden, I hear "Oh Danny Boy" being sung a cappella in the room next to me. And if I can tell you, I sat down and stopped changing and listened to her sing the most beautiful rendition of "Oh Danny Boy" I think I've ever heard. And she sang the whole song, and as she ended, I said through the wall, "Thank you. That was amazingly beautiful." And she felt a little startled because she didn't know I was, you know what I mean? But I'll never forget that. Never, never, never. And being Irish, and that's one of the greatest songs ever.
Yeah.
And to have experienced that it was truly special, really, and I'll never forget it. And, it was a great ending to a great day,
Yeah. Did you get to see James Caan?
I did, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That would have been neat, James Caan.
Yeah. So have you gone through periods where you stopped acting and then gone back to it, or?
Once, yeah. When funny thing is, after Book of Love, for whatever reason, I started to get into that age where, I wasn't, not long after Book of Love, actually. But what happened is 30-something aired and debuted and became a huge, huge hit. So a high school or young characters, high school, college movies were done. College shows, high school shows were done. Everything went 30-something.
Yeah.
And I was caught in the middle of that because I didn't look or wasn't playing old enough. So I was stuck in this sort of thing. And after about a year and a half, the audition slowed down, and I was with a good, reputable agency, and it just slowed down. And a woman at the time that I was dating was in the news business, and she was an anchor, and I moved out to Palm Springs where she was an anchor, and I took some time off. And then she got a job in San Luis Obispo as the 5, 6, and 11 anchor, and so we moved up to San Luis Obispo. And I lived there for about a little over a year, and I got involved with a local theater company called Artemis, which does, they did at the time, Shakespeare. So during the summer they did Shakespeare up at Cal Poly.
Yeah.
Had a beautiful, amphitheater, outdoor amphitheater. And then during the winter they do an indoor, and I got involved with them, and we did a production of The Merchant of Venice, and I played Bassanio, and doing a production of Shakespeare for 3 months, 4 months, including heavy duty rehearsals, and I fell in love with acting. And I realized this isn't me living here. I need to be back where I. So I moved back to LA, and got a new agent, and had a rough go for a little while, to be quite honest, trying to reestablish myself. Did a couple decent jobs, but it was slow for me until I signed with the Stevens Group, small boutique agency, and suddenly, I started to get on a roll again, and I started to book some nice roles. But that break, coming back to start again, it was a lot harder than I thought to reestablish and get out there and going. So there was a good section of my 30s where I wasn't working at all.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of the beast. It is what it is. I love what I do. I love being on set. So even if it's a one-day job, I'm happier than a pig in mud because it's what I love to do and it's where I love to be. So I just keep plugging along.
Yeah. That's good, though, that you landed on your feet and got back into the game. I've heard, oh my God, heartbreaking stories about people having to leave the business for so many different reasons, whether it's personal tragedy or, someone blacklisted them, just all these different reasons. And it's so interesting to hear these stories because you see their work and you go, God, this person was so talented, but what happened to them?
I know, and it's true, and that's the and the business has changed a lot. It always is changing.
Internet.
Yeah, and the world now is like it's funny because when I was doing television in the '80s, into the '90s. It was originally 3 networks. Then it became Fox. Then it was 4 networks, right?
Yeah.
And then the internet, and now with all these streaming platforms, I mean, there's more work. I mean, not now, of course, because of what's going on, but up until the pandemic started, I mean, think about it. There's more shows than ever to work on. But yet, it's just as hard, if not harder, to work, ironically, because the competition, there's so much, number one. And number two, the way the big 4, big 5 agents work, packaging and all that, takes a lot of work away from talented people who don't have the big 4 agents, the big 5. And that's a struggle. It's the people that are with agencies that are, boutique and, it's just not as easy as it used to be, because of the way the business is and the way the package deals go and things like that. It's kind of a shame, but there is a lot more work available with all the streaming, so the opportunities are there. And for me, at my age now, there's not nearly as much, but they're still out there. There's roles out there, and I'm bound and determined to get back in there and working again. So this pandemic, I hope that we can slow this curve down again so we can get back to work.
Yeah. And a great example of how the business has changed, is what you brought up before about how, you read for The Last Starfighter, but you got cast in My Science Project. That kind of audition is rare now, where if you get turned down for something, they'll consider you for the next project,
Yep. Memories are short. You're right.
Yeah.
Opportunity, I don't know, like, for example, I did the pilot last year for All Rise. And I opened the show and I had a nice little role, and it was kind of, it was a really nice little role, and it was, I developed, I was on the set a lot for that pilot, and so, a lot of good conversations with the director and producers, things like that. and they would, of course, the way the business is, you never know. But they were talking very highly about if this show gets picked up, we'll see you down the road, that kind of thing. And and then again, the show got picked up, and they haven't asked me back. Now that doesn't mean I did a bad job. It's just the direction of the show, but it doesn't stop you from thinking, did I not do my job?
Right.
But when you have network, you have, they, showrunner and the network, the direction of what they want in the show, that kind of thing. Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know. You never know. You think you're pretty sure that you did well enough, you're going to go back, and you never know. And then there's been shows where I did a 2 lines, and then I did another episode down the road. So, it's hit or miss. You never know. As long as, so the way I look at it is just, do everything you can to do the best you can do each time you get a job, and hope for the best,
Mm-hmm. Did you have anything lined up before COVID hit?
You know what? I had just been pinned for a show, and it was for the life of me, once again, my brain is not working, but it was to play a cop, and I was pinned, and everything looked good, and then less than a week later, they shut down LA on the 13th of March. So, and who knows if they pick it up? I mean, whether they'll go with that script once the show starts again, you never know. So, we'll see. I'm hopeful that once that show goes back into production, that they remember me being pinned and that they'd like to bring me back. That would be nice.
Mm-hmm. I hope so too, Bo. I hope you get back to work after all this insanity is over. I worry about the future of everything right now.
I do too. I agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bo, I thank you so much for coming on today. This has been great.
Oh, thank you for asking me. What a treat. It's been my pleasure.
My pleasure too. And I hope you have a great day. And just remain positive and everything will come together.
I agree 100%. Me too. And good luck with the show. I think this is a great format. I think you've got what a great thing to do.
Thank you so much. I have a lot of fun. I'm coming up on 900 episodes this weekend.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yes. Been constantly pounding them out for the last 3 years now.
That's great.
All right. You have a great day.
Thank you, Tommy. You too. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. Beau Dreman. Ain't he a cool dude? Nice guy, humble guy, great stories. Glad that his story didn't end in any sadness. It was only the beginning for the guy, and it will continue to grow even after all this COVID crap is done. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Till next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.